C3, Connecting Coaches Cognition, Coaching with Courtney and Christensen. As a busy coach, you spend all day refueling, revamping, and reflecting with educators. Now is the time to stop and recharge your batteries with some much-needed coaching for the coach.
Welcome back to another episode of C3. I'm Courtney Groskin, and I'm here with
Sandy Heiser.
Sandy, what's new in your world?
Oh, you know what? Me and you just facilitated day 5 of Cognitive Coaching Foundation Seminar. That was fun.
It was a blast. I mean, they're long days, but the content is so good.
I know it's even though it is a full Saturday, it really is a bucket filler those days.
Yeah, and I'll have to brag a little. We've got a cohort of 35 people this time, and they are so dedicated. Like, we go for a quick 45-minute lunch, and they come back, and they have more energy than they did in the morning because they're just so excited to learn.
Yeah, they really do. They're a good group. We're very fortunate.
And our model this week was a planning conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just so cool to watch his shifts and his beamers that he had, and just diving in and seeing where that coaching conversation can move someone and shift their thinking.
Well, what I loved about the shift that he had when he had that conversation was when she asked him, "Where are you now?" compared to when we started. And he said, his first words, I think, were, "I feel better." And what more could you want? He felt more empowered.
And what was it, like a 20-minute conversation, and he leaves feeling empowered. It's just there's so much power in a coaching conversation.
Agreed.
Today we have Joy De Los Santos joining us on C3. Joy has spent over 20 years in special education, teaching students from early childhood through high school in both district and cooperative settings. She now co-leads an instructional coaching team that supports classrooms across 9 districts, helping educators strengthen inclusive and supportive practices for students with disabilities. Joy holds a degree from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and a Governor State University and Concordia University of Chicago. She lives in Illinois with her husband, daughter, and their pet s'mores, Tina and Hammy. Welcome, Joy. Hi, Joy. Welcome to C3. We're so glad you could join us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, can you share with us and our listeners what inspired you to become a special education coach and what that journey has looked like for you?
Yeah, of course. I have been in public education for 21 years now. All of that has been in the special ed realm. But for the past 7 years, I've been in administration. And it kind of came up, we didn't have coaches when I was coming through. That just wasn't a thing. And when it did start coming through, it was more content-based. So there are a lot like math coaches, reading coaches, things like that. There really wasn't anything for those of us who kind of had to teach all of the content. And so when I was an administrator, one of my, I think, first tasks kind of in the role I am now is my director had come to us and we were talking about the high turnover rate, especially with brand new teachers, and saying, how can we help support these teachers? And we were also seeing a rapid increase. So I work for a special education cooperative. So districts can refer students to us if their needs are too great. And we were seeing a really high increase in number of students being referred. And so we said, not only do we want to support our teachers, but we also want to support our teachers in supporting our students. So that as much as possible, we want to keep our students in district with their gen ed peers, as much as we possibly can. So we were looking at different ways to do that. And we came across Jim Knight's work, and that kind of started the whole ball rolling. So I started primarily just as the admin, getting everything set up. Then we added another administrator to the team. And we had Amy Musante come in from ICG, and her and I connected, and it kind of just started the ball rolling from there. Most of my work has been more on the admin side, but now that we've established our team, and we were really, as administrators, we were really focused on supporting our coaches, and making sure that they had what they needed and figuring out, how do we do this? And then now that we've kind of feel pretty solid in that, we are starting to open up some new things where I am getting more opportunities to be on the ground in the classroom coaching, which I'm super excited about as well. So
we're all coaches at heart, no matter what our title may be. If we're using Jim's work, and I heard you talk about support. So no matter what the role is, we know coaching is at the heart, and that often is seen then throughout the work.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that you're back in classrooms too. That's always fun.
Yes. I'm. It's been a while since I've been able to be in the classrooms for any significant amount of time. So I'm really excited to be back in the classrooms, and we're doing some leadership coaching too. So we're going to be working with leaders and helping new leaders get their feet on the ground. So yeah,
love that. Okay, well, for teachers who feel overwhelmed by IEP requirements, kind of what we were chatting about before we recorded, or supporting diverse learners, what's one strategy you always recommend that has a big impact?
I mean, oh my gosh, there's so much within the world of special education. It's such a broad range. So within one class, you can have this huge range of needs, and it's so overwhelming, especially for brand new teachers, or even people just new to special ed, where maybe I've been teaching before, but, I haven't really had to worry about the IEPs and the data collection and all that extra stuff. So my biggest thing, the thing I like to go to the most when I am working with people who are feeling overwhelmed is let's find the thing that's going to give us the most bang for our buck. We look for strategies that are going to be able to support multiple students in multiple situations and multiple contexts with not minimal amount of work, but, in the long run, minimal amount of work. So it's front loading some of that work, looking for things that can be more universally applied. So a lot of times we'll talk to teachers and come up with a strategy and say, hey, but, this isn't just for this kid. It will help this kid for sure, but is it going to hurt anyone in the class to have this available to them? And a lot of times we can come up with something that then allows us to lighten the load. So that's kind of my go-to thing, is like, let's look for the thing that can help in the most areas, so that we're not having to do each individual kind of accommodation or modification and things like that.
Yeah, because so many of those strategies are good for all kids. I mean, so many of them are just really good teaching practices. So
yeah, for sure. I would say with the just kind of, it's become more apparent post-COVID, but there's a lot of strategies that are coming out that, those of us in the world of special ed are looking at and say, hey, that's what we've been doing for years. So yeah, good instruction is good instruction. Good strategies are good strategies. So let's find the ones that are going to help the most kids with the least amount of effort.
Timeless. Good instruction is timeless.
Yes.
Yeah. And I love how you highlighted of reducing the load. So I always talk about what's one thing we could de-implement. If we're adding this in, is there something else that can kind of go away? Or maybe with this in place, will that help lighten the load somewhere else?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, nobody has extra time. So if we're saying yes to this, what can we say no to? Or what can we say yes to that will allow some of these other things to kind of float away?
Yeah, for sure. Can you give us some insight into how you help your teams work together effectively, especially when there's different perspectives on student needs? There's such a spectrum of needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And everyone has, their own insight and their own opinions and things like that. So our big thing is we come back to the data. So let's look at the data. Data's impersonal. I say people can't be mad at a piece of paper. So, if we've got the data that can show us the why behind maybe why something is happening or why a student is struggling in a certain area, if we have the data, we can look at that, and that gives us a more neutral ground to start from, as opposed to kind of, I heard we worked with somebody who called it IJK data, that I just know. I just know the student is struggling in this. I just know it's for this reason. I just know. And that can start to get really personal, and we can start to have some conflicts there because we get really emotionally invested in that. So take it back to the data. And if we don't have the data, all right, let's talk about what do we need. And I find a lot of times when we take it back to that, we're able to find a more common ground. And I mean, a lot of teaching and a lot of instructional strategies and things, we have to try stuff. So, even having the teams say, hey, maybe we don't all agree that this is the best strategy, but it's a place to start. And it will give us some information, even if the information it gives us is, hey, this was a strategy that doesn't work. That's still information. So, but I really feel like bringing it back to the data helps to take some of that emotion out of it.
Yeah, definitely capturing that third point perspective in black and white. The data doesn't lie. So what is the data telling us? And then how do we move forward? And what other data can we collect to know if something's working or isn't the right fit?
Yeah.
Okay, what does an ideal inclusive classroom look like for you, and how do you guide teachers toward creating that environment?
I love this question. This is a great question. Because inclusion can look differently in a lot of different spectrums. A lot of times there's this idea that inclusion is kind of just pushing the kids with IEPs into the class and they're just there to kind of check a box. But for me, really looking and pushing towards real, true inclusion is looking at access and engagement. So do all of the students have access to being able to learn in this environment? Do they have access to the tools that they need? And are they engaged in learning? Knowing that the target for all students is not necessarily the same. But in that lesson, in that activity, all students should be engaged in learning in some way. So really, that's kind of what I start from when I'm working with our team, or now being able to work more closely with some teachers and some leaders, is looking at, can we identify a way that all students can access the materials and the learning? And are all the students engaged in learning? Because it's not really inclusion if we have the students in there and they're just kind of there. So are they engaged? And then the other thing I really like to look at for inclusive settings is, are the students really kind of understand? Do they understand and respect the differences of all of us? Are they aware of that? Do they celebrate those differences? Because I do feel like kids actually are pretty accepting when we start them pretty young. That they can be really accepting and really understanding of, everybody learns different and everybody has different strengths, and, it's okay. And it's good. We like that about each other. And so being able to see kids have those kinds of conversations, or seeing the moments when a student notices another student maybe is struggling and runs over to help, or, knows right away that this student might need help with a certain thing. So to me, it really comes down to that, access, engagement, and then that interaction and respect between the students.
Yeah, like that true integration in the classroom community. Or can I ask too, really quick, is part of your work with leadership, is that around helping school leaders also recognize a truly inclusive classroom? Are you sort of working with them on what they're looking for in their evaluation process?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's definitely a component. As with all coaching cycles, it kind of takes the direction of whoever, whatever their priorities are. But we do try to, guide that. And especially with working with the administrators. So we coach not just within our own programs, we coach within our 9-member districts. So we go out into our districts and coach as well. And so some of that work from the administrative side has been working with the coordinators, the special education coordinators within those districts, to talk about what inclusion really looks like and how do you build the capacity for that within your programming. Not that we don't want you to, to need us, but but we want you to build your capacity so that you're serving and you feel confident serving those students to the best of your ability. That way, when you do call us in or you do refer a student, we know, hey, this student has gotten the best possible shot, and they really do need some additional services.
Okay, nice. Thank you. What's one memorable moment where you saw your coaching directly? I'm sure you have many of these, but where you saw your coaching directly make a difference for a teacher and their student?
Yeah, that's tough because there are a lot, and especially coming kind of from that administrative viewpoint where I see a little bit of an outsider perspective sometimes. But there is one that it really stood out for me. So it was in our second year of our coaching team. And we had gone through lots of bumps and resistance the first year where we had really kind of figured out our approach and how we really needed to, as Amy always says, build our coalition of the willing, and really looking at that. And we had I was not personally coaching the person, but we had someone on our team coaching a teacher who was a veteran teacher. I mean, 30 plus years in special education, and had volunteered for a coaching cycle. But we're like, oh, I don't know if this is going to be, I don't know how this is going to go. And it turned out at the end that we actually had her make a video because she said this was like a turning point in my classroom this year. She said, yeah, I'm a veteran teacher, but I was struggling. I had a whole set of kids that I hadn't worked with this population before. And she just talked about how working with somebody and having that thought partner to bounce ideas off of just changed her whole perspective on coaching. And then she looked at her classroom and was like, no, I can do this. I can work with the kids that were a little bit intimidating for her because she hadn't been in that population in her long career. So that's really one of my favorite ones. Just because it just shows the power of coaching and how when you kind of go in with that open mindset and really not going and saying I have to have all the answers or tell what to do or anything like that, how we can work together. And it really benefited the students. We saw the data just reflected that. And she looked at that and said, yeah, that's exactly it. The coaching had a big impact on this data and on these students. So it was really kind of amazing to see.
And truly at any point in your career, like a 30-year veteran, that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great to be able to show, and that was, again, part of us building our coalition of the willing, to be able to show that coaching is not just for brand new teachers. It's not just for people who are, having a really hard time. Anybody can benefit from coaching. And it spoke very loudly within the program that she worked because she's very respected. She's been there a very long time. And people said, hey, if she's open to it, then, it must be a pretty good thing.
Mm-hmm.
What a beautiful evidence of collective efficacy.
Yes.
We can partner together and make amazing things happen, and then how to bring other people on board.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great.
Well, we're going to move into the rapid fire portion of the podcast. So in about 60 seconds or less, there's no big clock counting us down. What's one strategy every coach should have in their back pocket?
My favorite strategy in almost any situation is use of visuals, visual supports, primarily visual schedule. We get a lot of times we're called in to look at classroom management behaviors and things like that. It's the first thing we say is, where's your schedule? How do kids know what they're supposed to be doing and what they're going to do next? So that's my number one go-to strategy.
I love that. Is your visual schedule up in the front of that room where kids can access it?
Yep.
If you had 60 seconds with a new teacher, what's one thing you'd tell them?
I think the first thing I would tell them is, that feeling that you don't know what you're doing? That's normal. That's normal, especially in the first few years, but you're going to feel it sometimes all throughout your whole career. And to not be afraid to reach out for help. as an administrator, I say all the time that asking for help, I view that as one of the highest levels of strengths, because you recognize where you need some assistance and you go for it. So that's why I tell people, I'm like, hey, sometimes you're going to feel like you don't know what you're doing, but guess what? Somebody around here could help. So just ask.
Yeah, you don't have to have all the answers, especially that first year.
Yeah, nobody does. Even 25, 30 years in, we still need help every now and then. So
Exactly. Where can we learn more from you and with you?
Well, so primarily it would be on our cooperative website is Eisencoop, EISENCOOP.org. My email is jdelosantos@eisencoop.org. I'm not super into social media, but I am starting some different ventures where I will be posting more coaching related things. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, just search my name, and I'll pop up.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate your time and having you join us on C3.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Joy.
We appreciate Joy so much for joining us and sharing her passion for special education, coaching, and inclusion. What does inclusion look like in your school? How might you support teachers in developing an inclusive environment? Thanks for listening to C3, and be sure to follow us on social media. C3, connecting, coaches, cognition. Whose thinking will you mediate today?